Hi everyone and welcome back! I had so much fun making these weird clay reviews last year and I didn't think I could find any more new ones. But after spending hours on Amazon Japan, I actually discovered 3 more clays that I'm pretty sure you haven't seen before. The first one is a ceramic clay that you can fire in your own oven. These photos are slightly misleading because you only get the clay to create the cups and plates and not the food itself. But I like the fact that the pictures give you a lot of inspiration and you also get a marker to decorate the final pieces with. I was a bit surprised that the box contained a block of clay that already had a complete packaging. I suspect that this was hard to sell on its own, so they decided to rebrand and repackage it as a kit. There's a very popular brand of oven pottery clay in Japan called Yako, which I used to make this Pokemon planter many years ago. Of course, I'm slightly biased because this packaging features a koala, but I think Yako is so dominant that other types of clay like this one don't really stand out. But when included as part of a kit, it becomes easier to sell. One thing I'm worried about is the consistency, because ceramic clay is notorious for drying out. It basically only has a shelf life of 1 year, even if it's completely packaged. Just as I feared, this feels extremely hard and dry. I can actually snap it off and you can see the texture is brittle and leathery. I'm trying to use water to make it a bit softer, but it's on the very edge of not being usable at all. This is such a shame because the instructions give you some great ideas for making cups and plates, but there's no chance I can do that with this batch of clay. Just trying to roll it flat makes it fall apart. The only thing I can manage is a rough pyramid shape, so I'm going to go with the Mount Fuji design as shown on the box. The instructions say that you have to leave the clay to dry completely for 24 hours before firing. This should be done at a temperature of 160 Celsius or 320 Fahrenheit, and the piece should be placed onto tin foil. A typical pottery kiln uses temperatures of 1000 Celsius or 2000 Fahrenheit, so that's why oven clays are pretty impressive. When translating the instructions, I noticed it says the firing time should be 5 to 30 minutes, which seems like a pretty huge range. It tells you to stop when it looks like the clay has been sprinkled with sand. I have no idea what that means, so I'm just going to stick it in the oven and check on it every 5 minutes. After 10 minutes, it looks pretty much the same. However, after 20 minutes, I suddenly notice the top of the mountain changing color, and I understand what they mean by sprinkled with sand. Now I'm just leaving it in the oven until the entire outside ends up with the same texture. In total, it took about 30 minutes, and it's important not to overbake it because the clay can end up burning. As you can see, the piece clearly looks more polished and it even sounds more like ceramic. For the next step, I'm going to use the pen that came in the kit, although I'm pretty sure this is just a regular alcohol-based marker like Sharpies. Unfortunately, normal ceramic glazes don't work for this clay because a home oven just isn't hot enough. However, you can give the outside a shiny look using any type of varnish or even clear nail polish. This type of oven clay is a fun mixture of air-dry clay, polymer clay, and classic pottery clay. If you want to try it out, then I recommend looking for the Yako brand, which is more popular and therefore the chances are higher that you're not going to get a packet which is almost dried out. Yako clay also comes in many colors and various glazes. Next up is a slime clay with the pretty amazing name, Gumi. This looks like a soft version of a DIY bouncy ball, and I'm pretty curious about how it works. The ingredients inside are quite unusual as well. First, you get these packets of colored liquid, which are very satisfying to squish around. Then you have a mystery white powder and another packet of transparent gel. You also get some bags to keep the final clay inside. The mixing part is really easy because everything is pre-measured. You simply start with a packet of colored liquid followed by a packet of powder. Because this is a slime-based clay, I'm assuming that the recipe has to contain some combination of PVA and borax. These first two ingredients, however, do not remind me of PVA because they're not at all sticky. I'm pretty certain that the white powder is fake snow, also known as sodium polyacrylate, which is a super absorbent polymer that expands upon contact with water. In this case, it's absorbed all the liquid from the ink, and the resulting mixture has the strangest texture. This feels exactly like crushed ice, but without the coldness and the melting part. Now I'm going to add the clear packet, and this one is almost definitely PVA. It has a sticky consistency just like clear glue. It immediately comes together into a ball, and you can continue kneading it with your fingers. The fake snow gives it a very satisfying crunch, but it's noticeably thicker than slime. The material rips when you pull on it, and this reminds me a bit of overactivated slime. It holds its shape reasonably well, but you can't sculpt any details like other types of clay. The most you can do is make very simple shapes like a ball or a heart or cube. Since I made Mount Fuji for the first one, I decided to go with the Japan theme and create a pink mochi for this one. The shape is obviously very easy and suitable for this material. I'm very curious how this is going to dry and whether the clay is strong enough to hold the shape at all. Even though Gumi clay isn't ideal for actual sculpting, it's fascinating just for the sensory aspect. It's basically a reverse slime recipe, and I'm certain that those ink packets also contain a borax solution. So you start by creating a mixture of borax and fake snow. Adding sodium polyacrylate is a clever detail because that absorbs all the excess liquid and prevents the final clay from being too sticky or watery. Then you add the packet of PVA, and this of course activates the chemical reaction. The mixture clumps together within seconds, and you're left with this ball of slime clay. Of course, slime that contains fake snow isn't anything new, and it's usually called cloud slime. It's great for ASMR and produces some of the best crunching noises. The main identifying feature of cloud slime is a grainy web-like texture when you pull it apart. And just like I predicted, this clay has that same look when you stretch it out very carefully. This is essentially an overactivated cloud slime that can be played with like a putty. The final one is a tapioca clay. Tapioca is a starch used to make many things, including boba pearls for bubble tea. It's quite similar to cornstarch, which is widely used to make clay, and I have a tutorial on how to do that yourself here. I'm guessing that this one is going to be very similar to the rice clay from the first video or homemade cold porcelain clay. You get a lot of colors in this tiny box, although each one doesn't contain a huge amount. My first impression is that I really like the glossy texture, which I rarely see in other types of clay. My second impression is that this feels very stretchy, almost a bit too stretchy. I think this one is closer to a slime than the other slime clay. It's also pretty hard to sculpt because it keeps sticking to my skin. Once again, this doesn't seem like a product that's great for holding details, and I can only manage a very simple design, which is a triangular shape for an onigiri. For the seaweed wrapper, I need black, which I'm going to try making with a mixture of red, green and brown. However, this is a complete fail because the result is basically beige. So I'm going to cheat a bit and use acrylic paint. Adding moisture is going to make this clay even stickier, so I'm definitely wearing gloves here. This tapioca clay basically feels like trying to sculpt with chewing gum, and I'm not a big fan of it. The clay sticks to itself reasonably well, but it's so elastic that it's impossible to get a lot of detail. I think this one is great for anyone allergic to ingredients found in other clays, but it's not something I'd get just for its own sake. I let all these pieces dry for a week, and there's an interesting update. The tapioca clay has turned slightly translucent when dry, a lot like the rice clay from the previous video. The slime clay has collapsed quite a bit, which I'm not entirely surprised about. It now looks like a macaron shell with a jelly-like interior. I don't think this one is intended for you to create a long-lasting piece, but more about the satisfaction of the sculpting process. I hope you enjoyed this video and be sure to subscribe for more. In 2023, I'll be uploading more shorts, but there will always be full-length videos as well. So please don't be worried if you see new shorts from me every couple of days and assume that's all I'm going to be doing. These type of videos just take more time to put together, and I'm always working on longer tutorials in the background. I'm Joanna, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye!